So I'd love to know the story behind your cross.
Well, the cross comes from a migrant boat, one of the many old fishing boats that crossed the Mediterranean trying to reach safety, security, a possible human life. And some of the boats arrived and some didn't. And this cross is made of wood from a boat, just as it was. And it's the passion, the blood of the passion, and the light of the resurrection, and the nail of the enormous suffering of Christ today.
And that's a passion that you have in common with Pope Francis and also with Pope Leo.
Well, it's more than just the migrants or refugees. In a way, it's for all those who suffer and all those who are seeking a better life.
I read an interview with Cardinal David from the Philippines where he said that he'd never even heard of Cardinal Prevost. He didn't even know his name. And now Cardinal Prevost is Pope Leo. How does that happen?
Well, it happens. I mean, one way of understanding it is that Cardinal Robert Prevost died, and Pope Leo is now our Pope. In other words, our Holy Father becomes Pope, takes a new name to symbolize his death, might say, or let's say death to his old life, and now his full dedication to being the Vicar of Christ and the successor of Peter.
So this morning we saw him speaking in English. He's, of course, a fluent English speaker. What does that mean for the papacy?
I do know that no translation does justice to the original language. So to hear and to respond in one's own language is a real plus. It's a big plus, and since it's the world's majority language, that's a double plus at least.
How about on global affairs? Does that show a certain effort to engage globally?
Yes, but if there's an implicit comparison with Francis, I would reject the comparison. No, it's not a no. But I think it's a bit hard to imagine a pope today who wouldn't be willing, who would say no, we're not interested in global affairs. I think that would be hard to believe. Yes, we talk about world affairs, but he is not, in that sense, a world leader. He's not an alternative general secretary to the UN. This is not a political position. So world affairs have their place, or better put, the sufferings of people everywhere have an important place. But it's a bit risky to start comparing him with global leader.
Generally speaking, what are some of his talents that make him uniquely qualified to lead the Catholic Church?
His great ability to listen. People who've been with him maybe longer than I have say that he's always, in any group, he's the least to speak. He doesn't speak, much,
So he listens.
but listens a lot, which Pope Francis already said is believe it or not, is the key to world peace.
I mean, he's shown a profound interest in artificial intelligence. He's a mathematician. This is a challenge that not just the Catholic Church.
No, wait a second. It's not artificial intelligence as a mathematician. It's rerum novarum. It's his predecessor, Leo XIII, concerned about work as the issue for the vast majority of ordinary people on this planet. Work is I don't have to tell you, it's a big problem, and it's getting worse and worse, and more difficult to understand how people are going to be able to work as the economy evolves so rapidly without much concern about whether people have work or not.
So Rerum Novarum, written as the world was facing the challenges of the Industrial Revolution.
Exactly.
And now he was signaling to that
That's right.
as we face the challenges brought about by artificial intelligence.
And others. Climate change is also a threat to work. Wars are a threat to work. Starvation is a threat to work. Poverty is actually a threat to work. So it's not just, AI is maybe the most dramatic example, but let's not look at it as sort of AI in its little niche, compared with the huge problem of how are people going to earn their living when there will be less and less jobs. Maybe that puts it.
And well, please.
Well, no, just say. I mean, when you ask the question, how are people going to earn their living when there's less and less jobs?
And how are they going to find sense of humanity.
That's right. And this should be a major concern for societies and for business and for intellectuals and for universities. And it doesn't seem to be very high on the agenda.
I guess I'd really like to ask you, what are the things that you're going to be paying close attention to in Pope Leo's first days, first weeks, first months as Pope?
Actually, I think the way I see it is, I think he'd prefer us to pay attention to our work and not to him. In other words, I think there's an image of a very vertically integrated church. So the Pope decides, and then the bishops pass it on, and then the priests pass it, and then and that's not a good way of seeing things. So we're not waiting for Pope Leo to kind of tell us what to do and then tell the others what to do. For example, my department is concerned with integral human development, the full flourishing of human people, what everybody aspires to, and what is so difficult for such a large proportion of humanity. That's what I have to be thinking about, not sort of what Pope Leo is going to say next or do next.
But he sets the tone.
Yes, but so do we. I mean, we all set the tone.
So how is your life going to change now that...
Not going to change, it's just going to intensify. Because our department, if you ask which department in the whole Vatican, it would be most closely associated with Rerum Novarum, it's ours. So I think we'll be busy.
Oh, well, that's fascinating. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, just that we're concerned, as I said, integral human development, all what affects human life, and especially human suffering, and how the church can accompany people in their challenges. So the rerum, what I call the rerum very, very novarum that we're facing, are huge challenges for many people around the world already, and they're going to become more challenging. And so far, we don't have much intelligence or practical wisdom about how, as I said earlier, how are we going to earn our living if there are no jobs?
It's not just that, is it? I mean, I'm very interested in AI, and talking to young people about their use of AI, and the way that they talk about it is as if AI were an oracle. If you don't know the answer to something, you can consult the oracle. If you want to figure out where to eat your food, you consult the oracle. It has the answer for everything. And I see it almost as being used as a substitute for God, for a spiritual life. Does that concern you?
Of course, and so far, yeah. But what you say is also true of other aspects of digital reality, of social media. So, no, the social, cultural, human, economic, political consequences of the very, very, very rapid changes we're living through are something of real deep concern to the Church. Not for themselves, but because of the way they affect human life and human dignity.
This is of deep concern to the Church.
Oh, to the Church, that's right.
So it sounds like the Church has gotten a Pope that's quite appropriate for this time.
We always get a Pope that's appropriate for the time. That's by definition.
Does his North Americanness, I mean, does that create a link that's quite special?
Yeah. We don't like, I don't think we think of him as North American. We think of him as coming from the Americas. That includes the United States, but it doesn't limit.
It includes Peru, where he spent decades of his life.
Even Canada. Mexico. No, the whole America, the Americas is our home. And that's where he's from. And I think his dual citizenship and multiple experience is a way of making him, in a certain, or helping him to transcend kind of national limits.
I spoke to so many Vatican experts right up until Thursday who told me you can never have an American. It's taboo. They gave me lots of good reasons, and now we have a Pope from the United States.
No, we have a Pope from the Americas. I think it's different.
Do you think that helped?
Yeah. that helped.